Hey everyone, Kathy the Vegan Prepper here with kind of a New Year's 2021 life update and kind of goal discussion. And I guess it's the right time for it. I definitely do use the new year as an opportunity to sort of reevaluate and reset and look at certain things, but I definitely don't set resolutions as a lot of people traditionally do. I think more and more these days, more and more people are getting away from setting resolutions. I don't know. Is that true for you? Like, let me know. But yeah, I don't really set resolutions. However, I definitely take time to look at my life and kind of evaluate and use this sort of energy of the new year as a fresh start in various areas. But then usually I'm continuing goals that I have already set because I'm kind of always setting goals and coming up with ways to improve and do things better. So yeah, it's like an ongoing thing for me. It isn't just like a beginning of the year thing, and I think that that's true for a lot of people too. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of where we are, starting some new things and getting ready to take care of some things that we've been wanting to do. So yeah, it is the beginning of 2021. So we have just said goodbye to 2020, and I don't participate in any of the 2020 bashing. It's like the entire world was bashing 2020, and I never did. I loved 2020. 2020 was an interesting year, but it was a very good year. Overall, so blessed, so good. And even the challenges themselves are really blessings, right? Because it teaches you to grow, teaches you ways that you need to improve. You don't know the positive steps to take and the ways that you need to grow until a lot of times you face challenges. So even the difficulties end up working to your good as long as you work the difficulties and don't just get caught up kind of like in the victim mindset, victim blame game. I don't know. That's kind of how I feel personally about it when I hear people complaining about 2020 and saying 2020 was so bad and da 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 da. And I feel like that's a victim mindset because it's like blaming 2020 for all of the bad things going on in a person's life rather than taking personal responsibility and learning and growing and doing better. So that is something that is a huge part of my life. It's a huge part of my family's life. We are very big on the anti-victim consciousness mindset, like to have, I guess what they call, I actually just recently learned about growth mindset and looked up the definition of growth mindset. And I was like, oh, that's that thing that we do. Like it has a name now. Like, I don't know. And again, I feel like this is just the way that people used to live. Like people used to just sort of have these ideas of not letting stuff get them down. I don't know when this shift has happened. Like lately anymore, it's like cooler and more popular to complain, especially if other people are complaining with you. Then it's like you guys can have a complaining party and suddenly nobody is responsible for what's going on in their lives because 2020 or the economy or whatever. Again, not to say that there aren't difficulties, not to say that we have not had personal difficulties, but like I said, there's always ways to grow and learn and change. And yeah, like that's what's more important, I think. And to let that be the story, not only the story that we tell other people, but the story that we tell ourselves. That's the most important thing. So anyway, yeah, 2020 was great. I loved it. I am not like, I don't know, no bad feelings towards it. There was a lot of hardship, but so many actually amazing things. So it's like when you work out, you're applying weights as you work out, right? And that resistance as you continue and you move forward makes you stronger. And that is how I honestly feel about a lot of the stuff that has gone down in 2020. Also, it's kind of like right now, one of the things, so let me talk about one of the new things now that I've had this huge, long philosophical thing. I've taken up 5 minutes of my video. The pantry reorganization. I am reorganizing my pantry, and I don't just mean my working pantry, I mean my prepping pantry. So originally, when I really began prepping in earnest, I had a separate prepping pantry and then a working pantry. And over time, I have realized that that system does not work for me. So now I'm moving to a new system. So I definitely reserve the right to change my mind at any time. I can set up a system, and if it stops working, then I change it. So I don't get stuck, with like one thing just because I already did it. Like I think sometimes people get stuck. It's like they got to prove that they were right when they make a decision. And I'm like, I don't feel like I need to prove that at all. Like I just change it if it doesn't work. And I have absolutely none of my self-worth or identity tied up in whether or not the decisions I make work. If it doesn't work, then I change it, So anyway, I'm like really philosophical today, I guess. But so I am changing my system from a prepping pantry and a working pantry to a just extremely well-stocked working pantry, excuse me, and an overflow pantry. So where I will have one section where I have like the extra flour or rice or beans or, whatever. And even some of the things I need to access, but I don't need to access all the time. Things like arrowroot starch or vital wheat gluten or, like what have you, like several items that I may use very occasionally for a recipe. It doesn't need to be taking up space in my working pantry. It can be over in the overflow pantry, stuff like that. So I'm going to start working with that system and seeing if it works better. And so once that pantry organization is done, I'm going to give a full pantry tour and show you guys exactly what is in our vegan pantry, with, hopefully very well stocked with our beans and our grains and, the things that we eat, and sort of show you what the system looks like and help you maybe think of certain items. Like if you're like, well, what do you do for this or whatever? And so our pantry is also very much a Whole Foods pantry. We are not just because we buy a lot of it from Whole Foods. I mean like Whole Foods, plant-based, vegan pantry. So like vegan for the animals, but plant-based for our health, right? And so that's like, we're really shifting this year, getting more and more away from packaged processed foods, which is hilarious because we already are so far from that compared to where a lot of other people are. And I want to beat myself up a lot because I feel like I am not where I want to be, but I have to look and say, look, like kind of stand slack-jawed in amazement at the progress that we have made in those areas and like pat myself on the back a little bit because it's just been little step by little step by little step. Things are getting better, and that's just how we keep moving. Just keep moving forward, always tweaking and improving. And I think honestly, long term, it ends up working better where you just sort of gradually improve a little bit at a time, and then it becomes not so overwhelming, as long as you are very much committed to the path that you're taking. I know some people really would rather have a giant reset, but you can do a giant reset, but if you haven't worked on the habits that got you where you were in the first place, a lot of times, even with a huge reset, the habits will take you right back to where you were. So for me personally, in my own life, so some people that works for them, but for me personally, it ends up being kind of a very incremental journey, little bit by little bit, because not only am I shifting kind of the circumstances around me, I'm shifting my habits to match the circumstances, and then it ends up being much more permanent of a change when I get to where I'm going. So anyway, it is about the journey, not the destination, right? That's so true. So yeah, definitely philosophical today. I don't know what's going on with me. But anyway, so yes, the pantry reorganization, not just reorganizing the pantry itself, but reorganizing the functionality of the pantry. So it's taking forever. It's been more than a week. I also hurt my back. Thankfully, I am back to full function on that. But that was another thing that happened. It's like I can't lift or move or even stand upright and organize for very long right now. So I did that. So that was something that happened. I think it was, honestly, I think it was like grief, as strange as it might sound, because that was my mother. My mother just passed away. So that was the end of 2020. My mother passed away. It's been a little less than a month since that has happened. So that also has been a huge thing that's gone down in our lives. And I remember it was actually the day before she passed away, I was beginning to have an ache in my back. And then I actually cut her fingernails because we were, trying to get her. She had just gotten her bath, like hospice had come in and all of that. And I went around and I cut her fingernails to make sure that they were nice and trim, because she was starting to just kind of scratch without thinking. It's just very much at the very end of her life. Obviously, it was the day before. And they think now that she had a stroke. So that last day she was almost completely unresponsive, and just like scratching and digging at herself. So we're cutting her nails to make sure that she was keeping herself, I don't know, not digging at herself. Yeah. So and I remember when I was bending over her bed cutting her nails, I was like, oh, like it was really hurting. And then the very next day she passed away. And so then there was a lot of grief and all of that. And it coincided with my time of the month, which is just naturally when the muscles, it's just like with giving birth, the muscles surrounding the uterine wall and all of that stuff, like everything relaxes. So it's easier to get a back injury at that time. And so between the grief and then having to do kind of a lot of stuff, and yeah, I injured my back. So anyway, that doesn't matter. I don't know why I suddenly talked about that too. But anyway, I'm back from the back injury, thank God. So that took a long time. You know really what it was. So typically I take St. Johns Wort tincture, and that brings me back almost immediately. But this time it wasn't helping as much. And so the thing is, also like the couple weeks leading up to my mom's death, I was away from home. I was constantly over at my uncle's house, which is where she was. And I was not eating the way that I like to eat, super healthy. And I could tell it was beginning to drag me down. There was an awful lot of kind of junky eating going on, just because that was what was convenient. And even with a good, relatively nice prepped meal here and there with whole grains and beans, there was still not a ton of produce coming into my body. And so I believe my body was kind of inflamed anyway because of that. And so it was actually a combination of the St. John's wort, and then after a while just deciding, okay, 100% clean again. I'm going 100% clean. And it was like within only a few days of beginning to do that, and I eliminated gluten from my diet, even that, I started feeling better. Like my back just, like pretty much miraculously healed. And as soon as I did that, so I think it was like a combination of like grief and injury and inflammation. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But that's how I approach a lot of stuff. So anyway, Pantry Organization. Inside we have a bathroom that we are redoing. It's been torn up for quite a while, so we're getting ready to get started on refinishing that. And then also outside, getting ready to put in drip lines for the garden. And then also a big shade over the garden, which I know I've mentioned before, but these are kind of the things that are going down and things that we're thinking of. And then I am continuing on my weight loss journey, getting healthier and stronger and working out and eating clean and all of that stuff. And so that has been really great. And honestly, again, my mom passing is a huge motivation in that. And I definitely don't ever want to come across like I'm criticizing anybody, but food is an issue. And so I'm not at all critical of people who can't seem to shift or change, because there's some real biology going on inside the body, good and bad. And I don't know, I guess a lot bad when it's junky. The population of the gut biome, all kinds of stuff that's like beyond just stopping eating. Like it can be sometimes impossible and feel like you can feel like you're an addict or like a junkie trying to give up food. It's so difficult. But I will say one of the things, and I'm not at all blaming my mom's food choices for where she ended up. However, I don't think that you can entirely dismiss them as a factor in the disease that she suffered in her body her entire life, completely unmanaged diabetes, things like that. So there's a whole mess of stuff that was going on with her. But one thing that she would often say, and she would say it to me, like when I was trying to get healthier and I was trying to do better in my own life and for my family and all of that, she would say to me, well, you only live once. And like, you only live once. Like, why don't you just eat like what you want to eat or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, and so she'd say that. And I heard her say that so many times. You have no idea. This is something that she said, came out of her mouth so often. You only live once. And then she'd, eat the fast food or the third helping of pie or whatever, so it was like really interesting to see her do that. And then the way that she would talk to me when I would attempt to change things. So food stuff is difficult. Again, I'm not being critical. I just sort of want to mention that because then at the end, towards the end of her life, when she was still talking, she was grieving because she wanted to see Sage grow up. She's like, I want to see my granddaughter grow up. I want to see her get married. I want to see the boys get married and have kids. She wants to see her great grandchildren. She suddenly started thinking of all these things that she wished she could have that she didn't end up getting. Anyway, because she only lived once, So, and that has become in a lot of ways like a rallying cry for myself. You only live once, so I'm gonna eat some vegetables and I'm gonna work out and I'm gonna go to the doctor and I'm gonna get checked. I'm gonna get my exams and I'm gonna, take care of this body because I only live once, right? And even if that is not 100% true, like even if you are of, like more of a Hindu belief and you believe in rebirth and all that, I only get to live this life once, right? And as soon as I'm gone, my children don't have me anymore, so it's a huge thing that has shifted in me. And I feel much more motivated, I think, than I ever have before. And sad on a lot of levels, of course, but like also bolstered. It's that whole thing, right? Where the difficulties and the tragedies, even like, what do we choose to do with it? It'll make, oh my gosh, I'm full of like lame little sayings today. It'll either make you bitter or it'll make you better. But this is like, I guess it's like good, right? Because this is the stuff that I have constantly and continually filled my mind with. So that's the stuff that's like coming out of me when I need it. So that's good. It's a good sign, but it's a little lame. I get it. It's lame. But that doesn't mean that it's not true. Don't let lameness be the excuse to not listen because it's, not super clever. Like one of my other favorite sayings is that we miss the supernatural looking for the spectacular. And it's like, oh my gosh, so much of life is supernatural and it's beautiful and it's sacred and precious. And we miss it because we're looking for some, I don't know, parting of the Red Sea or burning bush, or you're looking for some sort of spectacular thing to feel like the sacredness and the specialness of something. And it's like, actually for me personally, especially thinking about my studies and my foray into herbalism, and it's like almost like the more accessible something is, the more powerful it is. Don't like get caught up in thinking that you need some $300 bottle of mushroom powder or something, special mushrooms to do something. It's like, no, like have some nettles in your tea, have nettle tea. Restore your blood and your iron and your everything, but mix it with something, because nettles, just drinking nettle tea straight up tastes like drinking the liquid from a can of spinach. Like, it's really not the best tasting thing in the world, although other people don't think that, but like, I think it tastes like canned spinach water. So actually one of my favorite ones is just half nettles, half red raspberry leaf, and it's a beautiful tea. And then that's really super nutritive for your female organs as well. So anyway, yeah, I think I've covered a lot of the things that we are getting ready to do. And I'm losing my light. The sun is setting. I don't know if it's showing up on here. But one last thing I want to leave you with, because I always like to leave people with something really valuable, even though it's not like that valuable, but it's like a new thing that I have discovered, and I wanted to share just because it has begun to make a big difference in my life. Over the last couple weeks, I have blue light blocking glasses. And I've been wearing them when I look at my phone or when I watch TV or anything like that. And I have begun to notice a big difference in the feeling of eye fatigue and strain that I would get from looking at my phone at night or whatever. And then I don't know that I necessarily have noticed a huge difference in sleeping. I've always slept really well, but this seems to be making a really big difference. I thought it was kind of a hoax. I thought it was like not real, but I thought, why not? So I found these on Amazon. It was a 4-pack, and then unfortunately it came with a whole bunch of extra stuff it didn't say that it came with. So I was hoping to just get like a few glasses. So for me and my kids, and Adam can't really wear them because he already has glasses, but his glasses already have a coating. But yeah, even Sage is wearing them now. Actually, I think I look pretty cute, even though Adam keeps being like, hey, nerd, whenever I have them on. But he's, being silly. Anyway, but the boys have a pair each, and Sage has a pair, and all of us have noticed a big difference in the blue light blocking glasses. So if you have been noticing yourself with eye strain or anything like that, maybe check those out, and hopefully they'll work for you. So I guess that's all. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here. Actually, I'm laughing because I'm looking outside. My grandmother's van is pulling up, and I'm like, oh, my grandma's visiting, so I better cut this off like right now because she's about to come over. So hopefully she hasn't been trying to call while I've been filming a video. All right, I'm going to go see her and say hi. So as always, well, like and subscribe. Talk to me about whatever in the comments. I love the comments. I live for the comments. I love talking to you guys. But yes, as always, I hope the rest of your day is good and your life stays wonderful. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.